I promised it. Here it is, Pilot Wavetrix number 2. Here is a bunch of code, but that's not the code I want to run. Here's a more bunch of code, and it is the code I do want to run. And if you watch here, I actually have it counting, so I know it's running, because sometimes it takes so long, I'm worried it's not working. Drum roll, please. So this is some of the position versus time stuff we were looking at earlier. However, now I can also plot where the points are and the shape of the fluid bath beneath them. Of course, it's stretched way up, as you can see here. These numbers are actually very small. What this means is that they are one wavelength apart. So we're here, you can see they're constant distance apart. Here, you can see they're a good distance apart. And if I did it early on, like say here at like 120, which we can do, we can see that they're not exactly in equilibrium positions. They're still moving around. We can see here that they're on the inside, which means they will be flying this way and this way, although very slowly again, because remember, these are not actually this spiky. It's just graphed like that, which means that essentially this guy is bouncing slowly leftward and this guy is bouncing slowly rightward until they end up in an equilibrium position where this wave function will even out and their positions will stabilize, which is super cool because now I can see that. So we saw them equilibrialize there, and we saw that it was about one wavelength. So why don't we set it some more space between them? And then we wait again. Look at that. So you definitely have a point here around 0 and around 4, which lines up with their position versus time graph. And we can see that they end up in these stable points up here, while all the craziness happens down here, which is very cool. Next, I want to show you something that happens when you have one particle and give it a bit more energy so it moves. So I set up the code now to be a little bit different. There's only one particle. As we can see here, the particle, like I'm pretty sure I talked about in an earlier video, starts here at 0 and eventually ends up moving with a constant velocity. And if we look at its graph at that point, we can see that it's actually riding the front of this wave as it goes along, which is super freaking cool. That means, if I can get that pop-up to go away, every time it bounces, it'll hit here on the slope, which will push it slightly this way in the x direction, and it'll just consistently do that and keep moving along this line. All right, Asa, one more really cool example. So here, I've got two particles that end up near each other, and then they end up the set distance apart while moving with a constant velocity. And so I took the fluid bath and graphed it at around 800, so around here. And that graph looks like this, where you can see these two particles dancing on their waves being pushed forward in the positive x direction, and they're both moving along together in tandem, disrupting this wave bath. And the really cool thing about it is that since these waves last a while, this peak is higher because not only is it getting the energy from this particle bouncing, but also this particle bouncing when it was back here. So this one peaks higher. So to compensate, this one actually looks like it goes at a slightly different height to get about the same angle as this one. So they keep bouncing with the same, so they keep getting the same speed imparted so they can keep moving together and keep this constant distance while they're bouncing forward, which is the absolute coolest thing I think I've done, is to get this program to show me this slice of the bath. Again, of course, these waves are super exaggerated, so in reality, they're really tiny flat, and these bouncers are just moving on a basically invisible field. But it's super cool to see it blown up, see the points plotted, so you know where they're bouncing. Well, Asa, thank you for listening to my ramblings. Again, please, if anyone has questions or thinks of ways that I can explain things better, please let me know. I thought I'd show you the snow. I don't know if you have any snow back home, but this is freaking ridiculous, and I love it, and school would be canceled tomorrow if I had school tomorrow. And Asa, I will see ya on Wednesday. I know my days.